If Europe wants to save NATO, it may be doing all the wrong things. That's the stark warning from a new opinion piece in the New York Times, and the case it makes is hard to dismiss. On April 8, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte arrived at the Oval Office for what was already a high-stakes meeting. Within minutes, President Trump leaned back in his chair and asked the question every NATO ally had been dreading: why should America stay in NATO? It wasn't a rhetorical flourish. Trump's frustration with the alliance had come to a boil during his recent war with Iran. Several European countries had temporarily denied American forces access to their military bases, and many initially refused his appeal for help in reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Trump responded by threatening to pull the United States out of the 77-year-old alliance entirely. Rutte had flown to Washington to talk him back from the edge. This scene has become something of a pattern. Since taking the top job at NATO in 2024, Rutte, a 59-year-old former Dutch prime minister, has made a career out of managing Trump's eruptions. His strategy is straightforward: calm Trump down in public and in private, then turn those very threats into leverage over European capitals, using American anger to push allies into rebuilding their hollowed-out militaries. The theory is that if defense spending becomes more balanced, America stays in. If it doesn't, at least Europe can defend itself without Washington. At last year's summit in The Hague, Rutte did score a real win, persuading European members to commit to higher defense budgets. Now his next challenge is to make sure that money gets spent in ways that actually bind the alliance together rather than reinforce old divisions. That challenge comes to a head this week, when the leaders of all 32 NATO countries gather in Ankara, Turkey. But the structural problems inside Europe are proving stubborn. France and Germany, the two countries whose cooperation is most essential, cannot even agree on joint development of traditional platforms like fighter jets and air defense systems. The prospects for working together on newer technologies like air and sea drones look even dimmer. Industrial protectionism, nationalist suspicion, and a reflexive tendency to blame America for every difficulty continue to fracture European unity at exactly the moment cohesion matters most. And that weakness is being noticed. NATO's ongoing crisis has shifted the strategic calculus for Vladimir Putin. As the comparatively Russia-friendly Trump years wind down and Europe slowly remilitarizes, Putin may be calculating that his opportunity to permanently fracture the alliance is narrowing. Latvian intelligence officials and Polish leaders said in late June that Russia is preparing military provocations against NATO member states. As one European ambassador in Brussels put it bluntly, Putin's window to destroy NATO is closing. The question hanging over the Ankara summit, then, is whether European leaders will treat that closing window as a reason for urgency, or whether old habits of division will win out again. Rutte has bought time. Whether Europe uses it wisely remains very much an open question. I'm your host, and we'll be watching how this unfolds.